Hi, I'm Dr. Diane Cleverley, founder of Personal Healthcare Information. To this session of Frequently Asked Questions, why should I enter a clinical trial if I have cancer? What's a clinical trial? Basically, it's the way that we in the medical community study the effectiveness of medications in treatment, prevention, screening, or diagnosis of a disease. All clinical trials are run according to approved protocols. They're regimented and they're tested, and we test the drugs and we do dosing, and they're very laid out before people are ever enrolled in the clinical trials. Once you're enrolled, you're given an informed consent document. So it's a document that tells you exactly what the clinical trial is going to be like, what's going to be expected of you, how often you're going to come in for treatment, what dosage of the drugs you might be given, how the trial is going to be run, if it's going to be blinded, if it's going to be randomized, if there's a chance you might be in a control group, all of that. And you're going to sign that document. And it's really important for you to understand this. Even if you sign that informed consent, you ask a lot of questions about it, make sure you understand everything. Your enrollment and your continuation in the trial is not obligated. You can discontinue anytime you want. So just because you sign the informed consent, you do not have to stay in the trial. A lot of people get nervous about that, but there's really no reason to be. You can discontinue at any time. Clinical trials are a really great way to access newer treatments. That's what a lot of people use them for. But you can also do them like a big, large prevention trial for cancer, just to contribute to society. Some people do that as well. You also have to remember, sometimes they're not experimental. You may have a very rare cancer, something like PNET, that has no approved, really good approved treatments, or a very rare leukemia, and they may want to test a drug that's great in lung cancer or breast cancer or a different type of lymphoma, but it's never been approved in your type of cancer. So it's not experimental. They know exactly what dosages to expect. They know what side effects to expect, but they just want to make sure that it's effective in your cancer as well. So that's why they need to run the clinical trial. If it's what they call a randomized controlled clinical trial, you may be in a control group. The control group will be given what's considered standard of care for cancer or life-threatening diseases. That could include other medications or whatever you would have gotten in the hospital if you weren't enrolled in the clinical trial for your condition and your stage and your place in your disease journey. You won't be given a placebo. You won't be given a sugar pill. That's a lot of concern for people in clinical trials. They don't want to go into clinical trials. They don't want to not be given a treatment if they end up in the control group. They don't do that. They will give you standard of care. And why would you consider a clinical trial? Well, a lot of cases, if your oncologist recommends it, if he says at this point we should consider clinical trials. There's new drugs coming out on the market every day. Maybe there's one for you that he has heard about, or he's just been to a meeting and he's read about it in his medical journals, and he would really think that you're a good fit for it. If you have an advanced cancer, stage 3 or 4, that's relapsed, it's recurred, you've been treated with multiple lines of therapy, or they've been harsh, maybe you hear of a newer treatment that might be more gentle. A lot of the newer treatments are targeted therapies. They're not as harsh as the traditional chemo, and you'd like to try it. If you're at very high risk for cancer, you don't have cancer yet, or you've had a primary cancer that's been treated and you're at high risk for a secondary cancer, you might want to go into a prevention trial and see how that goes for you to try and prevent a secondary cancer. If you have a very rare cancer, like I mentioned before, that has few or no treatment therapy options, clinical trial may be the only way that you are going to get a therapy or something actively fighting that cancer. And this is very interesting. The National Comprehensive Cancer Network has guidelines for cancer treatment. A lot of oncologists follow them. And in the actual guidelines, as you go through, it'll say drug A, drug B, and clinical trial. The clinical trial is listed as a treatment and a treatment consideration. What's being in a clinical trial like? Well, A recent survey of clinical trial participants find it overall a very positive experience. It's just like regular therapy. You're going to the doctor, you have a schedule, you have treatments. It's very similar to that, and it's a very positive and recommended experience. How do you participate in one? You need to talk to your oncologist or your treating physician. That is really important. If you're really interested in one, that's the first line of communication that you need to open. They often know a lot. If Even if your oncologist or participating physician is not a participating physician in a clinical trial, they will know someone who is, most likely in their field. You can also do a preliminary research if you like, or after you've talked to your physician, go and do secondary research and go to some of these websites. Clinicaltrials.gov is the gold standard to go to look for clinical trials, but there's also the National Cancer Institute has a great patient website. It's wonderful. I would go there as well, and cancertrials.help.org, and then there's a million other if you're eligible by the clinical trial protocol, and that's something that will be determined by the people running the study. So basically, you find your study, you've talked to your doctor, you're moving forward, you run on the website, you can see the eligibility requirements on clinicaltrials.gov or the NCI website, and it'll say, you've got this type of cancer, you've got this type of heart condition, you're otherwise healthy, you don't smoke, you don't have a liver problem, blah, blah, blah. You go, okay, I look like I might be eligible. You call them up. They'll do a preliminary screening over the phone. They'll say, yes, you seem like you might be eligible. Come on in. You'll go to the clinical trial site and they'll do another longer screening. It's a long form. They'll click all the boxes, and then once you click all the boxes, then they will put you into the process of, you're eligible for this clinical trial. So it is kind of a multi-step process to find out whether or not you're eligible. And hopefully these questions were helpful for you. And I just hope that you do consider clinical trials if they are an option for you. Talk to your physician about them. Look around on the websites. It doesn't hurt to look. If you see something that's perfect for you, bring it up with your physician. Remember that you deserve to be well treated and treated well always. And if you have any questions, please email me at personalhealthforyou@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for listening, and for more information, please visit us on the web at personalhealthinfo.weebly.com.